So let's go through what you got here. We've got under the vanity, you've got a hot and cold with supply coming up through the floor. You've got a shut off on each, which is great. It's perfectly plumbed. And you can see that the supply lines continue up here and then it dives into the wall and then turns and goes up to feed the faucet. What we'll do is I'll shut these valves off and I'll cut the water right here. And we also have a drain line to disconnect right here. So I'm going to loosen the compression nut right here. And another one up at the top. Okay. So now our drain line is disconnected, but it's still not going to release that sink from the countertop. That's held by some caulking. So I want to carefully break it with a putty knife because I don't want to break this granite countertop. Come on, baby. There it is. Okay. Say goodbye to your sink. All right, so here is your new sink, and you can see it's a lot lower and it's a lot wider, okay? Now, we could have selected an under countermount sink, and that would have meant you cut an opening right here and under countermount the sink. It would have required to refinish the sides of the granite. It would have needed 3 additional holes for the faucet. So this is called a self-rimming sink, so it's going to make a seal right down on the top of the granite. All right, you can see the faucet mounts right onto the sink, and that spout is perfect right to go down into the drain. Now there's also a much bigger bowl right here, so there's less chance of splash. Throw those handles up on there. So what do you think of that?
I like it.
All right. So now we've got to cut a hole in this granite countertop to accept this sink. Now I could cut the hole myself, but I want it to be done right and it can make a real mess. So we called Wesley and Eric from the local granite company, and they can remove the countertop to outside. Then they can mark the perimeter of the sink on the countertop and cut it with a grinder with a diamond blade. All right. Oh, great. So that looks perfect, doesn't it?
It looks great.
Okay. Now, before I put the sink back in, it's easier for me to get rid of these old faucets right here. I've got the water shut off, and now you got to figure out how does it come apart. A lot of times you'll find an index that says hot or cold. There's a screw underneath. That's not the case with this. With this one, I know from experience, you actually have to loosen this hold, a scutcheon, this shank right here. So there's one, and that leaves the stem unit that we still have to get out. We're trying to get it back flush so that we can put some wallboard compound and seal that hole up. Now, with the spout, there's a cover plate right here. Yeah, and they've got 3 Allen screws. Let's see if I can get that out. Okay, so there's the spout, and now the last is these 2 stem units. Let's see if this is the size I need. Okay, so there's the stem unit. That's what shuts the water on and off. Let's try the other side. All right, Lee, now we should talk about your new faucet. I've laid it out here on this towel so you can see all the parts you normally don't see. You got your hot and cold supplies that come up from the shutoffs under the sink, and they come up to this point, and these are called the stem units. This is the part where the handle's attached to that you turn the water on and off.
Okay.
And when you do, water will come through these hoses right here, comes to this T, and then goes up through the spout right here.
Okay.
Now the sink has 3 holes, and we're going to attach the stem units by coming up through the hole from the bottom. And now this is the part that goes on top of the sink. You can see the gasket right here and a nut. And that gasket's important to make sure no water leaks down through. So now that goes to bottom, and now you can adjust this nut to make a nice tight seal to the sink, which sits right here. All right, well that's not a good enough appearance right here, so they may have an escutcheon that goes right on top of it, and then a nut that locks it down. All right, so that's the part you'd see. Well, now your handle goes on here, but look, it doesn't fit.
Right.
So look at this. I've never seen this before. You would put this on top right here, and then this set screw would sit in here. But look at this, watch. The handle stays on by a magnet.
A magnet.
All right? So that'll be on when it'll look perfect right there, and then you've got your hot and cold. Now for the spout, it's a little bit different. Instead of coming up from the bottom, we're actually going to feed the spout in from the top. Again, there's a gasket right here to make sure no water leaks down.
Okay.
And now when it comes through, we put a nut with a washer on it like that, and then tighten that up so it doesn't swivel. Now the last connection is to drive this piece down. You see the O-ring right there, and one clip holds it together. Now, it's a lot easier for us to put all these pieces on the sink before we put it into place, and so why don't we do that?
Okay.
It's also a lot easier to install the drain, also called the pop-up assembly, out here. All right, Leah, dry fit the sink. You just put a bead of caulking right around inside that red tape. All right, you all set?
All done.
Let me drop the sink in. The new sink has a different center location for its drain, so I just need to modify the existing drain connections to make it all fit. All right, water's back on, drain connections made, you're in business, give it a try. Hot and cold. What do you think?
Really nice. Very nice. Thank you very much.
I like the way the water comes out of the spout too.
I do.
All right, now the only thing you got to do is to do another coat of wallboard compound right there, sand it out afterwards and just paint it up, and you will never know that I was here.